Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the January 24th meeting of the Burlington Conservation Meeting. The first item on the agenda is usually citizens' time, but I'd like to skip down and speak with, we have number 4, which is an introduction of Paul Sagarino. He is our incoming town administrator, and on behalf of the commission, would like to welcome you to your new position. We know you've been with the town for a while now, and we appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you very much. I think so. I think I'm looking forward to it. It's been pretty hectic for the past couple months, and I just asked John if I could come in and formally introduce myself to you guys. I recognize a couple of you guys that I've met over the years, not all of you, and I've been working with John on budget and other issues for the past 15 years or so. And again, I grew up in the city, so he's done a real good job of teaching me about why we shouldn't be making parking lots over wetlands and things like that. So he's really done a great job.
Not supposed to do that in the city either.
Well, they did it a long time ago. So
Yeah, I know.
But he's always done a great job of explaining to me the focus of your office and why this stuff is important, so I'll credit him for that. And in the recent year or so, I've got to spend time with the Development Coordination Committee, and John and Eileen are both very impressive in how they add to the developments that are coming through the town. So it's been a real eye-opening experience to actually see them in action and the types of questions and concerns that they have when a development comes to town. So you got two great people there, and like I say, I'm looking forward to working with all of you guys on whatever issues may arise, and I just wanted to say hello.
That's great. Well, we appreciate you being here, and I'll first say, I think we all unanimously agree that we have some really great staff, and we're lucky to have such competent staff. If you're, I know you're familiar, I talked with you briefly earlier, that I'll just say publicly, the commission, as you know, is leading an effort to bring a ballot initiative on the Community Preservation Act. And we're targeting the November 2020 presidential election. And so there's some planning going on now, but our efforts will involve mostly speed up next year, will involve some fundraising to help support a campaign, some planning for the campaign. We'll be first going to town meeting. We're looking at the May 2020 town meeting and see if we can get town meeting to approve the ballot initiative. And then we'll be submitting to the Secretary of State and getting the ballot question on the November 2020 ballot. The commission believes it has enormous potential for the town. And the nice thing about it is a dedicated source of funds that has a modest match right now from the state. There's an effort underway for this legislative session to try and increase the percentage match because it's based on the recording fees, which are not subject, real estate recording fees that are not subject to the annual appropriations. And so the match is subject to some other thing that's not subject to annual approval. The problem is everyone realizes it's a good deal and the recording fees haven't changed in the last 19, 20 years. So many in the legislature think it is time to raise those fees to help support this very successful state program. And if we do get it passed, we will have a dedicated source of funds that's in complete control of a advisory board to recommend projects, and town meeting would actually have the ultimate decision on exactly which projects are funded during which year, and so forth. And so the control is always in the hands of town meeting, and it provides a source of funds. It's this past year, for example, if you had a project for a $1 million project, $150,000 check would have arrived. You don't even have to have a project. If you collected $1 million this year, you would actually have received a $150,000 check from the state to add into your kitty. Whether or not you're doing a project that year or not, That's what's nice about it. So we'd like an opportunity to talk to you a little bit more about the particulars and what our timeline is and some things, so you are aware of it. But that's a big initiative that the commission is leading the effort.
I'd love to hear about the initiative. I've actually gone through the process formerly when I worked in the town of Lincoln years ago. Back then, the match was dollar for dollar, so we're
Was.
talking about a really nice program back in those days.
Timing is everything, isn't it?
Yeah, that lasted for a few years, and then, as you know, the reimbursement's gone down steadily over the years. But
Right.
I'd be happy to have a discussion with you guys. And
Sure.
we went through the process there. Obviously, a different town than we have here, but I do remember a lot of the nuances to the
I mean, the thing is, in order for us to compete as a town, even in the business climate, the Chamber of Commerce has told us the one thing that the Community Preservation Act could help with is bike paths and walking paths and wayfaring signs and things that make the town more appealing to young professionals who want to work in this town and live in this town. And so, I mean, from their point of view, they do see a benefit as well.
No, I don't disagree. Like I say, we have unique options as a town in terms of financing things, so I'd be happy to discuss it further with you guys to see what you're thinking.
That sounds great. Okay, would anybody else like to say anything else here?
Welcome.
Thank you.
I would just recommend, I don't know how many conservation lands you've been on, but when the weather gets nicer, to go check them out, and maybe we could all take a walk on them.
We've talked about doing that when it gets a little bit nicer out, as long as John agrees to protect me from any wild animals.
The only wild animals are residents.
Yeah, so you might occasionally run into there's that animal that rides the ATVs
Yes.
on our lands?
Homo
That's-
sapiens.
Homo sapiens, yes. We need to,
Well, thank you for having me. I don't want to hold up. I know you have some business to do tonight, but I appreciate you having me in, and I just wanted to say hello.
thank you and welcome.
Thank you very
Good to
much.
see you, and congratulations again on your new job.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, next we have citizens' time. Is there anyone here for citizens' time? Not that you're not citizens, but, no, that's, all right. Next is approval of minutes, January 10th, 2019. We have, we all set on that?
You have them?
Okay. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1. All right, okay. All right, next, we have a continued request for determination of applicability, filed by Sylvia Chertick at 5 Corbett Drive, and she would like to cut some trees. She has 5 very big trees that are, I guess, in the wetlands, but some have problems. Are you here today? You're here. All right, please join us.
So,
So you
I-
want to pull, you can pull the microphone over a little bit.
oh yeah.
Yeah, just pull it over, yeah.
So I took your advice and I asked an arborist to evaluate those trees 2 and 4. And he did evaluate some and actually found that the one in the middle has also problems. So now my request will be to be able to cut the 3 of them.
Right, okay. Thank you for doing as we suggested. We appreciate that. All right, John or Eileen, you would like to talk a little bit about what the arborist said?
Sure. I think we forwarded you a copy of the
Yes.
arborist report. So initially, there were 5 trees across the back that were discussed. The arborist determined that the 3, which they actually most wanted to remove, are all compromised in one way or another with rot and disease. A couple of them are multi-stemmed as well. And the recommendation of the certified arborist is that they all be removed. Actually, in the 3rd one, this actually calls out a safety hazard, but his recommendation is to remove all 3. given the proximity to the house and the fact that a certified arborist is saying they should be removed, I would recommend that you go with his recommendation.
Okay, and which trees is it? Numbers, if we look from left to right, there was 5 trees.
So he has a drawing of their location, and unfortunately, he doesn't list the other 2 trees.
Right, that's why I was asking.
Is the three, is it the three in the
The 3
middle?
middle ones?
Three in the middle.
The 3 middle ones,
So the 3 middle ones.
right.
Okay. All right, so, he has said in, 1 leader has fallen and is rotting and has about a 30-foot stress crack, one of them. And it has, another one has significant root rot. And the third one has rot visible from the backside of one header. Okay, also visible root, a rot flare on one side. So it sounds like they're not too healthy,
Correct.
is what he's saying. All right, so, we should bring up the subject, what would we like, describe the area they're in, maybe. It's,
So they're basically at the edge of the yard. So the yard goes up to the wetlands. The trees are more or less in a line across the rear, either right in the edge of the wetland or just, a couple of feet, 2 or 3 feet up gradient of the wetlands. So they're all right around the edge of the wetland.
all right, do you have a recommendation for our replacement?
I would say 2 to 1, given that these are large trees. They'll be replaced with small trees, and they won't probably all have 100% survival rate after a 20-year period when they start to get large, so.
And would they be supportive of fac-wet type native trees? or-
Facultative, so these are red maples, which are a facultative species. They grow well in upland or wetland.
Are you recommending a certain species or letting them propose
No,
something?
so we'll work with them. I'm recommending that they pick a species that grows at least 50 feet high. I mean, red maples would be fine as a replacement, but if they want to choose something else like oaks or elms, that would be fine as well.
All right, and do we specify a certain diameter or a certain size? I mean, you can get something as small as a sapling, and then it's,
Right.
I mean, shouldn't they make a proposal, these folks make a proposal to us of what they want to do to satisfy it, and then you approve it?
That's fine.
Does that make sense to you? Okay, so, any comment from the commission? How does you heard all that discussion? Does that sound reasonable to everyone? All right,
Do they have to take where they cut the trees, the stumps out,
No,
that required?
it shouldn't, actually.
No, actually, we can put in a condition, no stump grinding.
okay, so, did you understand what has been proposed here from this discussion?
An explanation will be welcome.
Okay. All right, so what has been proposed by our staff is that we allow the 3 trees to be removed,
Okay.
and that you be asked, because it's an important resource area still, replace them with, obviously, some new plantings on a 2-to-1 ratio. So what that means is that we would ask for you to plant 6 trees, because not all of them may probably survive, okay?
Okay.
And of some reasonable new plant size, and you get to pick which type of tree that you would like. And then you would make a proposal to, he would probably, I expect our staff would meet you out in the field, and we could mark the locations where they're gonna be planted, and he says yes or no, or makes suggestions for something different, and that would be it. Does that sound?
Just the trees have to
Well,
be
the
native.
tree species have to be approved by us as well.
Right.
I think just to, help that maybe you can send her the list of, trees, so that she's not proposing to plant trees, like, oh, no, that won't work, and she has to start all over again. It might be helpful to give the native
Right.
treatment.
Right, so you should just call us and we can give you an idea of what species to choose.
So I can cut the trees, and then I come to you to tell me what,
What to plant.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, you get to pick the actual, which plants, which type of tree you want, but he'll give you a list of trees, kinds of
list.
trees, a list. Yeah, that will work.
So it's, I have to talk with you about size or only the type of tree?
Both the size and the type.
Okay,
I mean, we don't want something, you know, like,
Yeah, I
well,
see.
we want it like probably at least 3 feet high, 3 to
Okay.
5 feet or something.
okay.
And it would be a species that would grow to be at least 50 feet high. You know, that's
Can
20
you tell me
20 or
that?
30
I'm
years.
not-
That's years from now, but,
That's that's many, many, many years from now, so you don't have to worry about it being 50 feet high.
Oh, no, I'm not worried about it, just to tell me exactly what to do.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
It's going to be a paper or something?
Yeah.
that I
Yeah, we're gonna
have
re-
to-
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we have a draft decision now, we're going to review it, and then we'll vote on it, and then you'll be all set. You just contact the office, and they'll help you get started with it. All right, so you folks, one of you will review it, I gather.
Okay, so the findings, the applicant proposed to remove 3 trees from the yard, which were leaning towards the house. The work was within 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at the edge of the wetlands. Massachusetts certified arborist from Highlander Tree and Landscaping provided a written evaluation. The 3 of the red maples were unhealthy and posed a safety hazard. So the decision is a negative determination. The first condition is that, you know, no other work beyond what was proposed in the application is permitted. And number 2 even goes further and says that the commission's only approving the removal of 3 trees. Number 3 says any other tree removal would be a violation. Number 4 is a restriction on where the equipment can operate. So basically, the truck, if there's a crane truck, it can't come with any closer than 20 feet to the wetlands. Just the tires, not the crane itself. Number 5, applicant shall plant 6 native tree species within the wetland buffer zone as mitigation for the removed trees. The locations of the trees shall be determined by Conservation Administrator. Trees shall be native with the specific species approved by Conservation Administrator. Only species that grow to at least 50 feet in height shall be selected. And I'll put something in about the size of the saplings. And we're adding a condition after that, that the stumps shall not be ground, so the 3 trees, the stumps have to be left there. They can't go in with a grinding machine, that just makes a mess, and they're right at the edge of the wetland. Then there are just standard conditions about no dumping of material in the wetlands, no using pesticides within 100 feet of the wetlands, a standard condition about us having the right to come out and do inspections, and then a standard condition about what happens in the event of noncompliance.
So this document, when we vote it, you should give a copy to the tree company.
Okay,
Okay, they should read this before they do the work, so
right.
so they don't
Want it.
create any
but from-
problems.
From the town.
Do you have any questions on any of these?
You said about the stumps, but what about the rest of the trees? Should I leave some there, or they have to remove everything?
I don't have a problem if they leave them there, but it's up to you.
Leave what?
The trees.
Rest of the trees.
I mean, if the tree fell the other way, we'd tell the people they have to leave it there. You know, you can't clean up fallen wood in the wetlands. It's good for wildlife habitat. So it's up to you. If they want to leave wood in the wetlands, I don't have a problem with it. They'll probably want to remove it, though. They're leaning towards the house, so they probably,
Yeah, I would
it'd be
like
easier
this
to.
to, just to be clean and not much wood, rotten wood there.
They shouldn't do something like, they shouldn't, sometimes they bring a chipper, and they shouldn't chip the wood into the wetland. But And that would,
No, they'll chip it into a truck, I'm
No,
sure.
it usually goes into the truck when they do.
Yeah, that's biomass.
Yeah.
They-
Mainly-
They
it
get money,
depends on the company, I know, but yeah.
That's
yeah.
true.
they get money for that.
I know, yeah.
Okay, so if you, even after we vote, if you have any questions, you can just contact the office and they'll help you out. Yes.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so any further conditions from folks? Then could I have a motion to issue a negative conditional determination for the project as described, for the conditions as we've reviewed for 5 Corbett Drive?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, and this is under Burlington Bylaw, Article 14, and the State Wetlands Protection Act. All those in favor? 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 0.
Thank you.
You're all set.
Thank you. I have a meeting, a work meeting at 8 with India, so
All right,
thank you.
good luck.
Thanks. So I'll have some paper come to see you or you send it?
You'll get the official paper probably next Wednesday or something, in the mail, yeah. Okay.
All right, the next item on the agenda is actually a continued public hearing. It's a notice of intent, 24 Terry Ave, for the BATA Corporation to construct an addition to a commercial building, and unfortunately, the DEP number is still pending.
I sent him an additional copy of the notice of intent on the Saturday after our last meeting, so I think on January 14th. And I checked tonight and there still is no file number,
We know,
so. Yes,
All
I
right.
agree, there is no file number.
right, but you do have some planning board meetings to go through anyway, right? So-
Right, we still have a continued hearing with planning board,
Yeah, so, I mean,
a couple of weeks.
it's sort of an inconvenience, you have to stop by one more time,
Listen, David.
but you like visiting us anyway, right?
Yes.
All right, next is, so please go through the introductions for the record, and the floor is yours.
Okay, so we made some revisions, minor revisions to the plan, some of the things that the commission had discussed at our last hearing. One of those things is that the curbing in the back of the site near the catch basin was not in good condition. Some of it was also in the wetlands, so we proposed to remove and replace some curbing along that area, about 80 feet of it, with some sloped granite curbing. In addition to that, I know Mary's specified some plants along the edge of the site, too, some sort of a restoration, plant restoration. And I also have a snow storage plan here that also, let's give.
One of the things I looked at when I went out to see where we had the opportunity to add plants within the riverfront area was the shade issue. And we are doing some disturbance
Say
within the jurisdictional buffer zone for the infiltration of the stormwater management unit kind of building. And while that's an ideal spot on paper to put in plants, I worry about a traditional 3 to 4 foot high shrub going in and not having very much sunshine. But I have proposed 24 low bush blueberry in either location because I feel that's an understory plant that it is tolerant of shade and it has the potential to do well in that area. Along the edge of the parking lot where we have better airflow, better sunshine, and a more suitable planting location, I've proposed 6 viburnum and 6 winterberry to be installed there. We also have done a little research on seed mixes for the surface of the infiltration areas, and I found 2 products that New England Wet Mix makes. One is a dry roadside seed mix, which notes that it's good for nutrient poor soils, which I would assume these areas are. And the second option that they had was a shade mix, but the shade mix to me seemed like it was also water tolerant, that they were assuming that shady meant low lying and wet as well. So I don't think that that's as useful. So even though the name of the seed mix is not that attractive, I think it's like upland roadside matrix mix. I think it's actually the better choice for this area.
And, John, do you have comments on what Ms. Trudeau just said, or do you have anything else that's not been addressed?
Okay, so there were a couple outstanding issues. One, the curb, I'd recommend that you require the sloped granite for the entire area that's within the buffer zone, so extending further than actually what was proposed on this plan, so up around towards the Terry Ave and that area.
Well,
yeah.
let's talk, could you point where you have, can you point on the diagram where you're recommending?
Yes,
Okay,
Right now, we're proposing it all along this edge here and all the way across, about halfway across the parking lot.
right.
This is all Cape Cod berm right here, which is actually in fairly good condition, and it does serve to do some channeling. And I think the critical part is where we show it here, is where the catch basin is, so we thought that would collect the water pretty well.
And John, you were recommending where?
The rest of it's bituminous?
I mean, basically, the rest of the area, so carrying up towards the cul-de-sac, up that way, and then down around the addition as well.
Which is gonna get broken up.
Yeah.
Get into the wetland.
So what you folks have proposed is where the snow plows have done a job on them,
Yeah,
for the most part.
Right,
you can see that it's broken in that area.
yeah.
I'm not, and what our administrator is suggesting is that the rest of that curbing is likely to suffer, or could suffer easily the same fate. That's what you're saying.
Right.
So how do people feel about that?
I agree.
You agree?
Yeah, I've seen too many pieces of asphalt in the wetlands.
You agree. All right, so it looks like the commission feels we really would like to see it extended.
And you're willing to entertain sloped as opposed to the vertical?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So the other issue was, which unfortunately we didn't get to, was to check the flags, the two flag locations, critical flag locations. Given the wetland delineation is fairly abrupt there, the wetland is fairly abrupt, I suspect they're,
Slope.
yeah, I mean, we can still get out, we'll try to get out and look at it before the next meeting, but I think it's really a non-issue probably, so. But now that we've got a thaw, we'll try to get out there again.
Flood.
And now we know it has to be continued anyway, so
Right.
we don't even have to assume, right? So, all right. Okay, so there was some talk about you folks taking a look at what, it's a riverfront area, is that correct? What you see as the improvement. So I was going to ask, I'm not saying what you've presented is not sufficient, but I think it would be worth reiterating that to satisfy, how you feel you are satisfying that requirement.
I think that we are satisfying that requirement by agreeing to the proposal of the sloped granite curbing, which will better contain the stormwater flow within the parking lot, as well as prevent future damage from snowplows or trucks driving inappropriately, which will create a more rigid line between the resource area and the activities on the site. I think that the planting of additional shrubs behind that sloped vertical granite curb will provide a thicket, which again is a demarcation and potentially has some habitat value for the wetland that's below. I think that the new stormwater structure that we're installing in the location of the existing catch basin will improve the water quality of the discharges into the river itself. And while water quality is not exactly your purview, having cleaner water is advantageous in a wetland system.
Actually, we do control the rate and quality of the discharge from the site. So it is kind of things that we always look at.
And both the rate of runoff and the quality will be improved both with the stormwater infiltration units that we've proposed as well as the changes to the hard drain system requirement.
And we can summarize that your upgrades will meet the stormwater standards, which they do not now.
here will be a maximum feasible compliance with stormwater, because we're a redevelopment project, we don't have the
It essentially meets the standards, almost 95% standards, so.
Right, right, that was my understanding as well.
The only thing we may not have is the offset to the groundwater, but again, we still have at least a foot offset to the 2, but other than that, as we meet all the other standards, the TSS removal, the recharge, we're providing recharge now and treatment, so, and no water goes off untreated.
All right, so to satisfy the riverfront requirements, does the commission feel that they've done a pretty good job upgrading to meet maximum feasible compliance with an improvement to the riverfront? Anybody else have a comment on that?
Do we think the shrubs that are going in there, because we talked about maybe a no storage of snow, would be enough deterrent to keep the guy from plowing into that area?
I think we could put up some signs, a couple signs along there that said no snow storage, or, some of that is really the control of the owner or the occupant of that site, which we have in the room with us this evening, and, you know, that they will be able to contract for the snow plowing, and to request that the snow be stored in the specified area.
All right, should we say that you will, as the owner, you'll propose a location for snow storage when we have this huge
There's a
storm?
proposal.
What?
They have a,
Is it on there? I didn't see it.
the
Oh, it's
thing
in
she
there.
just passed out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it shows locations where
Oh, okay.
the water wouldn't melt into the wetlands, but it would melt to the parking area, so that, then it would go to the catch basin before it
Yep.
goes out.
Okay, good, great. Okay, so, anything further from the commission? There's no, the record will show there's no one in the audience for this. So that we best not close the hearing, mainly because they're gonna look at the wetland flag, those couple of wetland flags that are of interest. And,
Plus, we don't have a meeting for 3 weeks, so if for any reason that got canceled, we'd be in trouble, because you have to issue a decision within 21 days of closing the hearing, so
right,
keep it open.
right. All right, are the folks here planning to be here on the 12th?
It's the 14th.
14th? 14th? All right, I'll be out that day, so,
Happy Valentine's Day.
thank you. That's the reason I'm celebrating Valentine's Day, it's very important to me.
Some of us take that holiday very seriously.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Like the
we
card
had
company
draft
and
decisions
people that
ready
sell
for you
stuff.
you guys in case it was done, so you can give you the drafts now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, so I guess we've done all that we can do here today. It doesn't sound like you owe us anything for the next meeting, unless there's an issue that comes up, which I know our staff would contact you. We'll just simply close the hearing, review the documents, and vote.
Should the plan be updated to show the new curbing?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, just, 'cause yeah.
yeah, good point, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we're all set?
We are.
Thank you.
All right, have a good evening. It's going to get cold, you know. The weather's changing.
There's a lot of water out there.
Yes, there is.
It's gonna be in the 40s tomorrow.
All right, have a good evening. Thanks.
I think it'll be okay.
All right, so we have planning board comments. Do you folks need us to write anything to the planning board at all?
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right.
Exactly what you say, or what.
Well, usually don't we let them
I'll
know?
update, I had sent them a comment about the curbing,
Right,
so I'll update that.
we'll update that comment. All right, okay. Very good. Next, we have subcommittee and staff reports. Anything? Anything on the open space plan?
We have a draft open space and recreation plan, which we're rather than send to you, we're going to post it on our webpage, so you can access it there. It'll be, it's a PDF, it's a big file, but we'll just put it on the webpage. Let's see, we just got it yesterday, I think?
What?
What,
Yeah,
no, yes,
Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Recently, anyway.
Yeah, so anyway, so it's the draft for review.
Is that for public comment as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're putting it on the webpage, so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, and could you maybe at some point send a reminder that it's on there to remind the commissioners to take a look?
Okay.
Okay. Next, we have upcoming meetings. The 14th we talked about. The next one after that is February 28th. I have one other business. Anybody else have anything?
Yes, I emailed out a request for a minor engineering change for 22 Town Line Road.
Yes.
And there was a plan that was sent along with it. So basically, the largest change is a reduction in the amount of grading in the backyard. They're actually reducing the proposed height at the back by about 3 feet. They're also eliminating some part of the structure, was it?
They were converting the change in the sunroom to be a patio, so the impervious is going to be the same on that point, it's just going to be not a room.
Bill sent around a
Retaining wall
note.
is down.
They did.
No, Bill did, yes, and he
Bill
was
did.
right.
Bill sent a note.
There's
And
gonna
he
be-
said that he thought it was a substantial change from the plan that was approved, but he said, if I remember his comment, anybody read it? What did he say? He said,
He said that it was an improvement, less of an impact.
he thought it would be less of an impact.
Yeah, they're building it up less at the back.
The wall is less,
Yeah.
lower.
So what is your recommendation?
I would just approve it as a minor engineering change rather than require a full formal amendment to the order.
All right. Okay, based on it being perhaps lesser impact?
Correct.
Okay. All right, could I have a motion to require to allow the change proposed as a minor engineering change for 22 Town Line Road be considered a minor engineering change by the commission? Second?
Second?
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 500. Okay, next, in your packet, there is a document. We have, on 2 occasions, I believe, we have voted support for the plastic ban, the plastic grocery bag ban that is proposed for town meetings consideration starting on January 28th.
Can I ask a question?
Yes?
You, when this was proposed, why was it just grocery stores? The other towns nearby are actually town-wide, not just grocery stores.
I don't know.
All
Is
right.
it just groceries?
I don't know. I'd have to read the bill.
Actually, you have the warrant article.
Yeah, it's in the
Does
thing.
it say groceries?
No, here it says
Specifically groceries?
No, I know there, but he's
or
talking about the
retail?
warrant bill.
Oh,
I'm
I
reading this.
I
That's
see.
what I.
Do you know exactly what page it was?
Yeah.
Yeah. Find it first.
Well, who else uses bags? I mean, restaurants for takeout a little bit.
Stores, every store you go to, CVS, the mall,
No, it's retail checkout.
it's for anything, okay.
Yeah.
Good, all right, so this is incorrect then.
So we're going to check this. It's retail plastic grocery bags.
Yeah, including restaurants, pharmacies, convenience and grocery stores, liquor stores, seasonal temporary businesses, jewelry stores, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
All.
okay.
All
So
right,
all
so
stores,
if the
yeah.
commission approves
That's
the
not what this
statement
says.
going out to town meeting, we'll have to make that change.
You just want plastic retail bags?
Or could you just say
Or something.
plastic bags instead of plastic grocery bags?
Well,
Why don't we leave off the word?
cleaners.
What's
I
that?
don't think it prevents cleaners from using, you know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah.
So what's the proper phrase?
What was the
Retail
wording in
bags.
the, it's just a
Retail.
retail
Retail.
bags?
Retail, plastic retail,
Plastic
Plastic
retail bags.
retail bags.
Plastic retail bags.
because all those places are retail
All right.
stores.
Okay, you and I will, or I'll make the change and send you a copy. How's that? Okay?
Any way you want to do it?
So let me see, plastic,
It's only one place, I think.
okay.
It's interesting that I was in Lexington, Stop and Shop, and saw their switch over January 1st. They gave you smaller bags, paper, no handles. I had 4 bags. I couldn't carry them out like I normally would
What you
with
should be
handles.
doing, Ed,
I
is
said,
bringing your own bag. That's what you should be doing.
That's the trick.
And
No, that's what you should be doing.
they're trying to encourage you to bring your own reusable bag.
And that's a good way to do it, let me tell you. Either that or you're wheeling a carriage all
How
the way
many
out,
other bags did
everybody.
you drop?
I dropped 1.
Did you? All right, so we have a proposed draft of a letter of support for the retail plastic bag ban, and to be sent on behalf of the commission. It reads as follows. The Burlington Conservation Commission believes that plastic retail bags are detrimental to our environment. The convenience of these single-use plastic bags comes at a cost to our waterways and land. It is true that Burlington sends its trash to an incinerator which somewhat reduces the impacts to our environment compared to disposal in landfills. However, many of the bags used in our town do make their way into our environment. The commission often sees plastic bag litter in our wetland resource and adjacent areas. Along with the other trash, these bags degrade the aesthetics of these areas. The plastic bags are lightweight and can travel long distances by either water or wind. This type of litter gets caught up in between the trees and fences and floats in our streams. Plastic grocery bags, plastic retail bags, are often considered degradable. They are photodegradable, which means exposure to sunlight breaks them down into smaller and smaller pieces over a long time period. These small pieces of plastic eventually become microplastics. These tiny plastic particles slowly make their way into our watersheds, through creeks and storm drains, and eventually to the open sea. These tiny plastic particles displace plankton, the main food source for large marine mammals like whales. Plastic bags are made from petroleum, a precious natural resource that cannot be replenished once expended. Here in the United States, we go through 380 billion plastic bags per year, equating to 1,634 million gallons of oil. In a climate of rising gas prices and growing concerns about the climate impacts of using non-renewable energy, the production of plastic bags is a waste of our crude oil resource. Plastic bags are not accepted in our curbside recycling. Unfortunately, some bags do make their way into our recycle stream, where they can clog and shut down the sorting lines of our recycling facilities. As of January 2019, 90 Massachusetts cities and towns, representing over 40% of the state's population, regulate single-use plastic shopping bags. The Burlington Conservation Commission supports and urges you to enact this plastic bag ban. Sincerely, the commission, and our names are listed.
So actually, that last sentence calls them plastic shopping bags. That's, rather than retail, the shopping bags probably makes sense for the other two locations in the letter too.
Okay, so you're saying it should say plastic shopping bags?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's just two things that, I'm not telling you to change it, but just in terms of if it comes up as a point. So the idea that they're photodegradable, so a long time, this means like, the reality is it's beyond your lifetime. These things don't break down very easily. They've done studies where so first of all, when they go to a landfill, they're buried, so they don't get broken down. But even when they're exposed to sunlight, they don't break down any kind of real time that people would expect. And relating to, microplastics, how much these contribute, but microplastics, people may not be concerned about whales. That's something they may not see or care about, whatever. But they've actually found pretty much every type of fish that people eat has contaminated by plastic, has plastic in it. So you are eating plastic if you eat fish. So that should make a difference. You don't eat whale unless you go to Iceland or something.
I may, before I finish this, look that up. I may look that up.
About what?
Plastics and fish.
Oh,
I eat a
it's-
lot of fish.
Well, that is there, Larry, among other things, but yeah.
All right. It tastes pretty good with salt and pepper on it.
Yeah, me too. I also eat a lot of fish.
You eat a lot of fish?
2045, all
8.
saltwater fish species are going to be extinct.
What's that?
By 2045, all saltwater fish species are projected to be extinct.
Yeah.
Really? That's too bad, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will tell you that I don't know what the official lifetime of a plastic bag is degrading like in sunlight.
Like a ridiculous amount of time. It's-
Well, I've heard numbers like 50 years, but I can tell you that I cleaned out my mother-in-law's apartment when she moved into an assisted living. and she had plastic bags that appeared to be about, from what we could tell, probably about 25 years since she was there, old. And I went to pick up all these plastic bags that were in a pile, and it completely shattered. It was like, I picked them up as a whole. I thought I was picking up bags, and it was like, it was plastic dust, 25 years. So, I mean, I don't know what is considered a long time, but I can tell you that's the one anecdotal data point
They
that I
make
have.
different plastic bags than what she had now, I don't know, but they're just, they're not considered to be by people who recycle.
They're not degradable in a short period of time.
Biodegradable, yeah, they're not, they're just,
Right.
it's not a realistic.
No, they're not biodegradable. Okay. All right, thank you for
But I
the.
will also make the point that, because some people will say, oh, paper is not any good either. The alternatives, you bring your own bag. Easy to do.
I think
It's, paper.
some of us agree with that.
Paper creates waste as well, and, transport and,
At least it's from a renewable resource.
yeah, but you're still transporting it to a place. There is oil to take it to the store, to the manufacturer,
That's true, but I will say, it's
but you're removing trees that are taking some
40% of bags must contain about 40% of recycled paper.
Sure, yeah.
So,
But still, though, it's not, the alternative, the best alternative is to bring your own bag.
I think, can we all agree on
My
that?
question is, how much energy you have to spend making papers versus plastic? Which one is expensive more?
Well, it depends what kind of energy you're talking about.
Well, energy,
Because
you
there's
know,
oil that makes the bag, too, as well.
But then you get into,
That's
even
why,
even if it
again,
takes,
bring your own
even if
bag.
it takes more energy to make the plastic from crude oil, it probably does. However,
you have to make the pulp and then you make the paper. From the trees, you make the pulp
I think it takes more energy
in the
to
making
make the
paper.
plastic bag.
Makes the plastic,
I
okay.
think, I don't know. But I was always under that impression, but even if you are correct, the BTU value is very high in plastic. So some people would argue, hey, we're getting the energy back anyway when we burn it in the incinerator. We're making electricity.
So I have seen the paper mills, okay, and it's a huge.
I mean, to me, one of the big issues aside from the pollutant problem
Plastic companies. Have you
is
seen plastic?
No, I haven't.
plastic comes from a non-renewable source. Paper, whether you think it's a good alternative or not, at least comes from a renewable source.
Yeah, true.
So,
The only one I haven't seen really listed, and I'm wondering how they stay out of it, is your laundry cleaners. With those plastic bags over the coats and shirts and blankets and everything else.
I think they might be exempt.
They're exempted, yeah, I just read it, yeah.
Where's John sent us?
Do you think
There,
they're
it,
in there?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
what
think
it
that-
does say.
That was
they're
from,
exempt.
from the town meeting. It was from Bill. It was from the
okay,
town
so,
Yeah.
could we have a motion
Before we go exempt,
with
your
the
dry
changes that you indicated for plastic shopping bags terminology? Would we have a motion of the commission to approve sending this to town meeting in support of the plastic shopping bag ban?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? 500. Okay, is there anything else we need to take care of?
I just also want to state some of the statistics that Bill sent around that was sent to him by somebody else. The thing about the reusable bags, that's if you use it once. The claim that somebody had made about that, oh, cotton bags, they use resources and so forth like that. That's, if you reuse that bag over and over again, then you've kind of, cut out any kind of negative effect there. But at the end, you don't buy a bag and use it once.
And if you buy a cotton bag, they're washable. He made a comment about germs or something from.
I wash
you know,
mine,
you can
I
wash
wash them
those
all.
bags,
I
right?
wash the ones that aren't even cotton, the cheap ones you get for free at meetings and stuff like that, those stand up to the washer. I mean,
In
Or
fact,
you
we
can
had,
just designate bags for meat. You don't have to, you
Or
put your
don't eat
vegetables
meat.
into the meat bags.
don't eat meat.
you know, it's, I went to India in November, and I was really surprised to see that they have cut down using this plastic bag.
Where?
In India,
India?
in Calcutta, yeah, I was there and I saw it, I was surprised.
They don't use plastic
They were
bags in
using
Ireland.
cotton.
For many years,
Yeah,
15 or
exactly.
18 years now.
Yep.
Did you say they don't use any single-use plastic bags in
They
Calcutta?
were not using in the store, I've seen it.
That's a much bigger
I
impact
cannot
than
say
ours.
that all the stores, but few stores I had been there, I saw. They were
Are
not
people
plastic.
using reusable bags, or is it paper?
Yes, cotton,
Good.
washable.
Okay, if there's nothing further, motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Lisa was spot on. She guessed
5-0-0. Good evening.